Hello, everybody, wherever you are in this wonderful, wonderful world of ours. We have a lady from England who kindly said yes to us to join, to share her experiences, which has been, well, basically since she's a child, she's been aware, as a lot of us are and a lot of us understand. By the name Magenta Pixie. I love the name. So I've got a sort of magenta scarf on. Only by perchance I put it on, then realised who I was interviewing. Well, I knew I was interviewing her, obviously, but it all just gelled together. So thank you, Magenta. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Coming all the way from England into our home, into Australia. So we, as I said, so happy to have her here. Now, as you know, everybody, we are talking about Say Yes to Life, Inspiring Consciousness. We've said yes, Magenta said yes, you've said yes. And we're all inspiring each other and we're all conscious. And so much so that Ray is conscious enough to read Magenta's bio.
Yes, that I will do. And I'm just, by the way, I'm just hoping our cat at 11 o'clock at night is asleep and she's not going to come up here and interrupt us. So we don't want our cat.
Yes, that's fine. I've got a dog that might bark, so and a cat, but the cat won't come in, but my dog might bark.
Oh, okay.
Life
Stop
goes
the dog
on.
barking. Yeah, exactly.
So Magenta Pixie has been in communication with a collective group of light beings or a higher self aspect since 1993. She affectionately refers to these beings as the white-winged collective consciousness of nine, or simply the nine. Regular meditation and a journey of synchronicity within her own life led to this awakening and connection. Magenta releases her messages from the nine in video form on YouTube. Since releasing her first message in 2008, she's attracted over 75,000 subscribers. She's worked individually with clients all over the world and is the author of at least 4 books: Masters of the Matrix, Divine Architecture and Starseed Template, The Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame, and a smaller book, The Black Box Program and the Rose Gold Flame as Antidote. Channel books teaching individuals, particularly starseeds and light workers, to find their own sovereignty through the understanding of their own energy system. Her passion is helping people to move through trauma, embrace the enlightenment and ascension path, and find their own connection with creativity, divinity, and joy. I especially love the joy bit.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for asking me to join you on your summit. I'm very pleased to be here.
You're welcome. Well, just like you, as I was saying before, you know, just if you could just give a little bit of a background of how you became who you are today.
Okay. I'll go through this as quickly as I can and condense it. So as a child, I was aware of beings around me, which I thought were fairies. I lived in a world of imagination as a child. When I got to the age of 11, I had a few issues at school. My father was a hypnotherapist and he took me into hypnosis to assist me with these issues at school. And then he taught me. I was a very good subject. I responded really well. I went into deep hypnosis and he taught me self-hypnosis over a period of years, really. When he took me into hypnosis, it was the first time it had happened to him as a hypnotist. I started to speak back to him, but it wasn't me. It was this other part of me that my father said was my subconscious mind, which he was absolutely right. I was only 11 at the time, and I would call this being that I felt was speaking through me as me, I would call this being subby, which is short for subconscious mind. And afterwards my father would tell me what was happening, and that my subconscious mind was simply able to be accessed really easily, and that I could separate the sort of normal me from this subconscious aspect. And it was the first time as a hypnotist that he'd seen this happen with his subjects. We know this happens all the time now. So that was the first time that my brain, I guess, was used to going into that pattern. So fast forward many years later, and I had all sorts of synchronicities and things occur throughout my life, and sometimes I would reject it and other times I would embrace it. But then it got to 1993, when I specifically went into meditation after all these synchronicities and things that had occurred, and I knew that there was something leading me to something and I wanted to find what it was. I went into meditation specifically to meet my spirit guide after reading a book, and things happened very quickly because obviously I now know my brain was already used to going into the subconscious mind. Of course, we know that the subconscious mind is a vast aspect of ourselves. So within that, there are a multitude of different I guess brain waves, if you want to look at it biologically. Spiritually, you would say that you are able to access different intelligences, different beings throughout our entire multiverse. So that's what happened to me. I made a connection with this being that said he was my spirit guide, and after quite a few months of only being able to communicate with him in meditation, I then found that he was there while I was awake. And for several years, I spoke to him, you know, in the shops and wherever I was in life. I didn't need to go into meditation anymore to communicate with him. But something would change. I would sense a change when he was around. And I remember going to talk to my father. I'm speaking to this being, I'm speaking to this spirit guide, and my father was, as a hypnotherapist, was incredibly open-minded when it comes to psychology and deeply metaphysical, but somewhat skeptical that there may be other beings speaking to us, rightly so. So I would say, he would ask me all these questions about, well, what's happening with your mind, and what did they say, and what does it look like? And I would say, I can't answer your questions, let me ask him. He called himself White Spirit. So basically he said to my father, and this is back in, I guess it must have been 1994 by this time, he said to my father, she is still a somnambulistic subject. So anyone who's a hypnotherapist will know what that means. It's somebody who goes incredibly deeply into the hypnotic state. She is able to access the somnambulistic state while she is awake. My father said that's impossible. And then White Spirit said, we understand why you would think so in your psychological training. However, we are that same being that you knew as subby, but we are in a more expanded state now, in accordance to her expansion. My father then understood that something profound was happening to me, so it taught him loads as well.
Yes.
And, you know, he was my greatest mentor, bless him. He passed away last year, and he was absolutely my greatest mentor. So basically, that's how it all happened. And then around the year 2000, White Spirit merged with a higher aspect of himself, or one could say he left and a new being walked in. It's all the same thing. It's a higher aspect. White Spirit said he was fifth dimensional, and then this angelic being that looks exactly like a traditional angel told me that he was sixth dimensional. And then after a few days of this transformation occurring in my mind, he morphed into 9. And when I say he, usually any female who is a heterosexual female makes a connection with the higher being. They will present predominantly as male, but not always, and vice versa. And if you are homosexual, you will usually connect with, but again, not always, you usually connect with the being that is opposite to your energetic presentation of your gender, whatever that may be biologically. So that's why I always refer to white spirit as he, and the 9 also present in a mostly masculine form. But when I have been very upset about something, unsure, scared about what I'm picking up and how to present that, then the 9 will step back, and a female will merge. They will merge as one female, and she will step forward. I now know her in many forms, but I now know her as one form is the Divine Princess Aurora, one form is Queen Sophia, one form is Mary Magdalene, which is the same thing, really different names for the same thing. So the female will step forward. So all of this occurs within the imagination. However, the imagination is presented to us as a scale. So there are aspects to our imagination that we create. We've just imagined it. So if I'm going to write a fictional story, I'm going to imagine all these characters and make it all up. But once you start to do that, the imagination moves forward in layers in accordance to these harmonic brainwave states that we go through. And this presentation moves deeper and deeper and deeper into a point where you are no longer creating something, you're no longer in high creativity, but that creativity that you've accessed is communicating back with you. So that's how you find this. It's quite a simple thing, really. A lot of people, when they say they're channeling beings, it's so weird and crazy and vast that people will look at that and think, wow, you know, what does that mean? But when you actually see it, this is your brain wave state. It is natural and normal for you to do this. And this is the body and the cells and the neurotransmitters within the body and the DNA and everything. And some people have managed to tap into that, and others are able to tap into that and haven't yet, and others have blocked themselves from tapping into that. And that's kind of it, really.
That's just it. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
So simple when you know how. But what a great father you had, who, like you said, was a great mentor and was open to, first of all, putting you under hypnotherapy when you were 11 and working with you. And as you said, you learned so much himself.
He was amazing. He was an amazing man. I'm so proud to have been his daughter and incarnated with him. And I know that this is one of many incarnations I've had with him, and I know I'll see him again.
Yes, of course. Yes, you have worked many times before. Yes,
you both chose well.
We did. Yeah.
Yes. So, with the White Wing Collective Consciousness of 9, you say that's you, and it's not you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That's a hard one for a lot of people to get their head around. It's like when you say, well, really, I'm just channeling myself. A lot of people go, oh, it can't be you. It's got to be coming from a greater being, someone with more knowledge, more wisdom, more whatever else. But we want it within us. Would you like to share that with the audience, please?
Yes, how I learned this was somebody said to me, you know, when I first spoke about channeling, like, oh, well, it's just you. And I'd be, no, it's not me. It's a being from another dimension. And then I would speak to them and say, well, we are you. They're right. However, not in the way that they meant it. And they would teach me how they were me. So how they're me is they're my subconscious mind. Moving into this expansion, so going through these brainwave states. So we've got, I think, beta, alpha, theta, delta brainwave states, but we also have a brainwave state that hasn't, as far as I am aware, been measured by any technology on this planet that's gone public anyway. And that's what the 9 call beyond the theta. And then they say far beyond the theta. So we have other brainwave states we're able to access. So that's how they are me. When we go into that brainwave state that is beyond the theta, we are able to access, I guess, a memory field. And that memory field is the memories of every single being that has ever lived, that ever could live, that ever will live in all realities and all timelines. we're able to access that memory field. So we're able to access, if you like, the memories of all things. And that again would be you just simply accessing out into a field of memory. So everything is within you. It's biological because it's the cells of your body, it's your neurotransmitters, it's your DNA. It's also you because it is your memory system, because your memory is much more vast than people know. But they are themselves because they're not me in human form. They know far more than I do. They know things that I don't know. They have a much wider vantage point than I do. So they would explain that to me by saying they're me in the future, but that would be light years in the future. But it depends where you are connecting with. So you might be with a being that's you 6 months in the future, and that will look very much like you 6 months later. Or you could be speaking to a being that's you 200 years in the future or 200 years in the past. So we're looking at past life incarnations and future life incarnations. Or you could be with a collective of beings that are light years in the future. They are an individualized intelligence and a personality in their own right. When they exist as themselves, they exist within this memory field. They don't have any individualization as such in that state. They're simply pure awareness. But because they're pure awareness, they have the ability to individualize into different structures. When I am not in communication with them, which isn't very often, they are simply pure awareness, which is the state that we all are. So they're also me because I, on a higher level, am simply pure awareness, as are you. When they're in that state of pure awareness, they don't see themselves as having any boundary to who they are. When I speak to them, they individualize into a personality, but they are a collective. They express from the group mind, the group soul, the collective presence. So when they speak to me, they individualize as the white-winged collective consciousness of 9, these 9 beings. I can go beyond that form. I once asked them, if you've upgraded from white spirit to the 9, can you upgrade beyond the 9? And they said, well, yes. Would you like us to show you? So they show me what they are when they move beyond form, which is universes and planets and galaxies and stars and electrical supernovas and all that. And then you go beyond the physical into this pure energy, this pure memory field that I'm speaking of, and out through solar systems and through the sun, and go through many, many different suns. Everything here is an emanation. It's an emanation in a physical sense of something that's behind it. And there's something behind that and behind that forever and ever and ever, because it's infinite and fractal. So that's how they're me and how they are themselves. So when someone says you're just channeling yourself, it's just your imagination, it's just your subconscious mind, they're absolutely correct. But from that point of view, they probably don't know what they're actually talking about when they say imagination and subconscious mind, and what that actually is. And when someone says, well, it must be a higher being, you know, from another amazing place, another dimension, from another planet or heaven or wherever, that's true as well. What they don't want, though, is for us to worship them. No. Because then you are simply removing yourself from the fact that it's you, and you are in worship to this higher being, and that takes you away from the ability to understand the equality between you and them. And that's the equality between your individualized physical self and your expansive, omnipresent, non-physical self. We must understand that is one in order to be able to understand it. And another way of putting that is simply to look at the brain. We have the left hemisphere of the brain, we have the right hemisphere of the brain, and then we have an ability to balance those hemispheres. And when you do that, you activate an energetic within the middle of those two hemispheres. There becomes a third activation, which is the beyond the theta brainwave state. So that's another way of explaining it.
Yes, yes. It's taking the responsibility, isn't it? Not negating
Yes.
everything. Yes, putting it in simple words.
Yes, but it's easily done when they first come to you, or you first hear about another being, whether it's through religion or spirituality. It's very easy to think, wow, you're this great, amazing being that expands all these dimensions, and I'm just this little, lowly, humble person on earth. But then you do go into this worship, which is kind of where religion is, and that's not what they want. It isn't worship. I will say there are beings that do want worship, and they love it, and they soak it up, and it gives them energy, but they are not the beings of love and light and Christ consciousness. If you're worshipping a being, if you're worshipping a genuine, loving, benevolent being, it will say to you, don't worship me, or it will sit down and start to worship you to show you that you are equal. But if you're with a being that is not benevolent in that sense, it will want your worship. So that's another way of knowing where you are with these beings, or those aspects of yourself.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. That answered something for me, because I've been channeling some of the masters on and off for a few years. But very, very recently, I was told it wasn't appropriate for me to continue to do that I should channel myself.
Yes,
which is exactly what you're saying.
Yes, because you'll still be with the masters, you'll still be with them, but because the 9 are the masters just presenting, sometimes they can present those aspects to me. So what you are doing, as I was saying earlier, you start with this identity of I am one being. It's incredibly important for you to have that identity. If you fly off into the I am all beings, I am all one, without integrating that first identity, you don't have any anchor. So you must know that I am one being amongst 7 billion people on planet Earth. Yeah, that's the I. Then you move into the we, which is the multitude of masters, or the collective of 9, or we are a collective, we are a group, we are all things. It's still you. It's another identity that you have, but it's beyond the identity of I. And you may have to work with the identity of we for a long, long time. As I said, White Spirit was with me for years, from 1993 to the year 2000, before he upgraded to a collective, because I was then ready to understand that. The next step, which is where we are all going in our ascension process, our enlightenment process, if you will, which the 9 call Stargate Ascension, is to move into exactly what the masters have told you that you will be channeling yourself, meaning we move back to the I. But we no longer identify, well, we remain within that identification of I am one being amongst 7 billion individuals on this earth. We move into the true I, the I am presence, which is I am all things, and I am one. So the we is the many, which you must also anchor, because you can't get there without understanding that you are all things, as in many. And then you move into the I am all things in the one, and you take all 3 of those identities within you at the same time, and you merge them together. When you do that, you are taking the left hemisphere of the brain, the right hemisphere of the brain, and moving into that 3rd beyond the theta brainwave state, which doesn't have a name scientifically as far as I'm aware. You are balancing the brain, and everything's firing within the brain to bring you into that balance. That Stargate Ascension, and what you get when you are there is deep communication, the ability to access that memory field, healing within your own body, the ability to heal others, either with them or from afar. So everyone who's awakened within the ascension movement, within the enlightenment movement, the self-help movement, they are all doing this.
That's good advice for all of us, I think. And also taking our own being, instead of worshipping other people who are walking this earth, influences, what a big effect they're having on, especially, well, I guess young people, I guess might be all about, big influence on how we are actually presenting ourselves, wearing the right clothes or the ripped jeans or whatever. It's not worshipping themselves and saying, no, I don't like that, I like this. You're worshipping somebody else and then just following them. So it goes hand in hand, doesn't it? Just taking it.
Yes, absolutely. The whole celebrity culture. It's like, oh, I want to be like this singer or this actor or this reality star. It's a normal part of third dimensional working out your own identity. And it's okay to worship a celebrity for like a short while you learn, while you're young. But if it's when you stay there that is the problem. If you stay worshipping celebrity culture or a religious being or a master or whoever it may be for a long, 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 long time or forever, then you never, ever come back to the empowerment that's within you. So it's not that it's bad in itself. It's just that it's destructive if you're there and you don't grow and move from it.
You don't grow up, so to speak.
Yeah.
As I've always put it, it's a distraction.
It's a distraction. And it's necessary for some, the youngsters on social media, and it's okay as long as they learn from it and they move to the next phase. And this is the thing, the whole social media thing and the celebrity culture was created to entrap the young. It is backfiring on those that created that entrapment, because many of the young are learning from that. Some don't, but many are, and they are moving to the next level and the next expansion. So you can't really say it's a good thing or a bad thing, because it really depends how it's used and at what stage of your life. I myself, when I was young, was the same, pop culture, and you'd worship something else, or like you say, clothes or fashion or whatever it may be. But it's a phase you should go through, not something you stay with.
Yes, exactly. It's like, we wouldn't be able to communicate the way we're communicating with if we didn't have technology the way we have it.
I know, it's marvelous.
The good and the bad.
Yes.
No such thing as good and bad, but it's using it in an appropriate way. So talking about technology now, your latest book, which you said started off as a question from somebody, became a little handbook, I guess, which is talking about technology and 5G and all those things. And there's a lot of fear around it. I know from talking to people and even on social media, what's going to happen when. Would you like to?
Yes. Okay, that started off as questions from many people. It just repeatedly, 5G, what's going to happen? I'm really scared. What can I do? Is the world going to be destroyed? Blah, blah, blah. Because I had so many questions, I thought I have to take a break from this other book I was working on and sort of shift over and move into this question and see what the 9 can say, because lots of people are worried. So I presented this question to them, thinking this would potentially just be another video for my YouTube channel, but there was so much that they wanted to say that this ended up being not a big book, but a little small book. So what they said to me is, 5G is the original 5G, the original creation of 5G is just part of an entire program of control to keep the population in a situation where they cannot find empowerment and they cannot grow and they cannot access these brainwave states that I'm talking about. So it wasn't just 5G, it was a whole bunch of different programs, which the 9 call the black box program. So we've got in there chemtrails, we've got vaccines, we've got 5G and other things. The original 5G was created to scramble the signal, if you like, of individuals. So as an individual lives on this earth, the entire body is an energy system, and that energy system works like a transmitter service. It transmits energy and it receives energy. So this occurs into the cosmos. Cosmically, we are receiving energy from different planets and planetary alignments, and we're receiving signals from all over, and we are transmitting signals all over. And when we do this in balance, we awaken to these everything I've been talking about. But if that signal were to be blocked or scrambled, it would then create a situation where we wouldn't be able to do that. And that's what the original 5G was created for. But because the energetic on this planet at the moment is of such a high positive vibration, because of people like you and I and all the starseeds and all the wonderful work they're doing, all of these negative programs created to block and entrap the people, everything is flipping back into a positive. Everything is kind of backfiring. So there are many timelines and many eventualities, but the probability of this original 5G being implemented on a wide scale is incredibly low, to the point where it's, you know, less than 5%. There's a less than 5% chance of that being implemented on a wide scale, because it would destroy life. It would destroy our life. So the fear is absolutely right. It's right for people to be afraid of that original 5G, because it would destroy our life. However, the next level to that program, and all of these, the black box program is a multi-leveled program. The next level is the fear itself. So if they can't control through the actual original 5G, they may be able to control through the fear of it, because fear also prevents expansion and growth through chemical alignment within the body, and also it blocks the signal as well. So widespread fear is also part of the black box program. When you look at the most probable timeline, due to the fact that the starseeds are doing such powerful work right now, the most probable timeline here is where when 5G is finally implemented, it isn't the original 5G. It's a watered down version, and it is marginally faster in its internet speed than 4G, but energetically it's probably 4 point something G. It's maybe a bit faster than the 4G. It's not the original 5G, but they're calling it 5G. So one has to be aware of all these different perspectives, all these different flavors of what is 5G and what is the control program, which is the black box program. So it's right to be afraid of the original 5G, but if you buy into debilitating fear about this, then you add to the black box program, because the fear of it is the next level to it. So when you look at the most probable timeline, because of the starseeds and the work they're doing, if it gets implemented at all, as in any form, it looks as though it will be implemented in the watered down form in certain places. Things are going to start to go wrong. For example, people will protest, governments will get involved, different groups will get involved, things will break down, the signal won't work, oh, you name it. It isn't working in the original form. So when you know that, there's no need to be afraid. What you must find, if you wish to add to the assistance of the work that the starseeds are doing, and specifically the starseeds known as grid workers, what you do is find the trust and the knowing. This is not going to work in the way that they want it to. This won't work because, and you find pure trust. But there are other things you also need to do. There are individuals now, I'm one of them, who are already sensitive to 4G. Now, that doesn't mean I can't sit on the laptop and talk to you like I'm doing now, but there are things I need to do to be able to work with 4G, as in how often am I exposed to these things? And it's not just the internet, it's EMFs everywhere. There are things one can do. And in the book, the Black Box Program and the Rose Gold Flame as Antidote, the Rose Gold Flame is the antidote to this. And what is that? That is using sacred geometry through this brainwave beyond the theta state and connecting with what we know as the Schumann resonance. The Schumann resonance on this earth was named after someone, so it's called Schumann. But the Nine call this the crystal river of light, because it's a river that runs through the whole planet, and it runs through us. It comes up through our feet, it comes down from the cosmos through our crown chakra, and we're part of this crystal river. We're part of the Schumann resonance. So the book is about learning to tap into the Schumann resonance. Now, when the starseeds do that en masse and they reach critical mass with that, what actually occurs is, even if the original 5G were implemented in its original form, and as I've said, the chances of that are below 5%, even if that were to be implemented, only if the 5G signal was more powerful than the Schumann resonance, the Crystal River, could it actually cause widespread harm to its fullest level? If the Schumann resonance in conjunction with the starseeds are taken to a frequency beyond the 5G cannot do the original damage that it was implemented to do. So I know I'm speaking here about a lot here. You've got conspiracy things going on, and people may think, well, that's, you know, no government out there would do such a thing. So that's a whole other issue. I could talk all day about that. But, you know, there's information out there about the conspiracy and all of that. And, you know, everywhere. You only have to type it in and find that. So basically, there's all these different ways that this original black box program is flipping into the positive. The rose gold flame, the antidote is us as starseeds. The antidote is the Schumann resonance, the Crystal River, and our unification with it. It's about unification. And it's everything I was speaking about earlier, about the unification of the brain waves, moving into that Stargate ascension, moving from the I identity to the we, and then back to the I in its fullest form. All of these things, you don't even have to know about 5G to be someone who is part of the antidote, because every thought you have that's taking you forward, which is why so many spiritual teachers and so many spiritual books and teachings will say, work on yourself.
Yes.
And people think, well, what does that mean? Why is working on myself going to help the planet? But you can see, of course, how working on yourself absolutely does help everything, because you are all things. So working on yourself is broadcasting a signal through your inner technology, which runs through your neurotransmitters, runs through your glandular system. It's in all of what you are biologically and energetically. You add to that signal, you add to that crystal river, the Schumann resonance, and you literally are part of everything around you, all the people and the planet and everything. So that's the most probable timeline right now. Everything's flipping into a positive, and there is no harm when you look at it that way.
Yes, and that's taking the fear out.
Absolutely. It takes the fear out. It moves you into trust. And if you do still have sensitivity to EMFs, you are right. Don't just walk into a place where there's 100 people all on their cell phones. And, you need to sort of take some energetic, spiritual precautions, or whatever word you want to use for them. And, it's all about the foods you eat, the thoughts you have, the places you go, how much time. So you have to work on multi-levels with this, and that's the Nine's teaching within that book, really. And this kind of it moves into the whole vaccine and chemtrail thing as well. That's also part of that. The chemtrail and the 5G came from an original core reason was for control. The vaccines were not. The vaccine's original core reason for them was genuinely to help people, but it was hijacked. So the original reason for vaccines came from someone who thought, wow, I've discovered this way I can help people. And once that was discovered, it was hijacked. So that's a hijacked. And many, I can speak about vaccines all day. The information, again, is out there. And so the vaccines, the chemtrails, and the 5G are the three main core points to the black box program, but they're not all of it. It goes beyond. I mean, there's many black boxes. There's little ones and big ones. And and that's what's also known as the dark matrix, the inverted matrix, the prison planet control structure. And again, it's nothing to be afraid of, because... And yet it's understandable that people are afraid, but when you open up to that trust and that knowing, you bypass all of it. It moves to another dimension. It can't touch you. You must be aware of it. You must navigate it, but it cannot infiltrate you when you're part of the Schumann resonance, which is the crystal river, in this positive frequency, which is the balancing of these hemispheres of the brain. You can do it through yoga, you can do it through massage, working with crystals. There are so many ways. And find a starseed that's a teacher, find someone who's a naturopath or a healer, or who does Reiki or mindfulness, or there's a whole huge world of assistance within that dimension of light where the starseeds are. Everyone has access to it in some form.
Yes, it's like you're saying, working on yourself. it's doing Reiki, like you said, having a massage. They can be so simple. It's not like you have to become a professor on something to learn about looking after yourself, eating the right foods.
Exactly.
You know, some people bless their food, some people don't. But, you know, to me, that when I go in the kitchen, you know, I'm preparing that food with love.
Yes,
To me, it's
absolutely.
that simple.
It is, and if you look at the work of Masaru Emoto, the messages of water, that kind of, I know it's not proof scientifically, but to someone open in the alternative movement, if you like, it's proof that you can change the energy of your liquids and foods by doing that. The Nine taught me how important it was to bless my food when I first spoke to White Spirit, and he actually taught me a blessing which I've remained doing ever since. You know, every time I eat something, there's more powerful blessings, and you can do full rituals to bless things, but absolutely, it's all the power of the mind. You know, and it's not just about simply the mind and your thoughts. It's so much deeper. It's a technology. It's inner technology. We have technology as well. They have the black box program, but we have our inner organic technology, and it is far more powerful than any technology they could possibly create. And I'm talking about right into the whole artificial intelligence programs that are, you know, and everything, the extraterrestrials. There's so much information out there, but when you work with your inner technology, that's all you need, because you are adding to this huge group of people who are also all working with their inner technology. And it's all about love, light, joy. But you must be aware of the other stuff. You can't sit and talk about love, light, and joy only.
That's
exactly.
You hit the nail on the head there. It's like I say, I watch the news because then I'm aware what's happening.
Yes,
I don't
absolutely.
have to become involved with the news. I don't have to take it on board.
No.
But I feel that if otherwise I'm an ostrich with my head in the sand.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's right for you. But if somebody else, also aware and spiritual, decided not to watch the news because they wanted to remove themselves from that energy, that would be right as well. As what is out of balance are those that absolutely don't want to know. I've got a couple of friends like this, and the minute I mention black box, inverted matrix, AI, reptilians, like, oh please, and they don't want to know because they're not able to deal with that. That's okay. Just like the youngsters, you know, worshipping celebrities, that's okay, as long as you don't stay there. If you know you've got a huge aversion to anything dark, that's all right for now. Be aware that it's something you will have to face if you want to go through ascension in balance and access Stargate Ascension. You know, if you want to move into that balanced alignment, it's about looking at your own traumas, and we can't do that without looking at the global traumas. We all have global trauma, we all have individual trauma, and it's about releasing that. And so it's all part of the same thing. It's okay to not look at that for a while, but if you bury your head in the sand, as you say, forever, then there's a part of you that has remained unhealed, and that it's not free, which is the opposite to ascension. Ascension is about freedom, and we are at the moment, the Nine say, anchoring the liberty templates, which are these frequencies that I'm talking about that create freedom on all levels, and that includes yourself, and that includes the traumas you have. They want to be freed. The body wants to be freed from, you know, so it's so multi-leveled.
Yes. And it's listening to me anyway. It's listening to yourself, being true to yourself, and allowing whatever happens to happen, but being aware of when and how it does happen.
Yes, absolutely. And if you come across blocks, such as if you move into fear and anxiety, that's okay. Don't be I've met so many people say I'm in such fear and so anxiety, I'm doing something wrong, I'm blocking myself, I'm blocking my progress. No, you're not. You're a sensitive person, you're waking up, you're a starseed, and you are finding things to be anxious about. It's okay for that to occur as well, as long as you go and find a way to deal with it. I have it still now. I have not got it. This is the thing. I can't sit here and talk to everyone and say, oh, I've got it. I know this, I know that. I'm speaking to these beings. I've accessed this beautiful brainwave state. And, you know, my life is sorted. It's not true. I still have anxieties about things. I'm still dealing with stuff, you know. I'm no different to anyone else. So it's a journey. It's a journey. And you the worst thing is for you to feel that you're doing something wrong. So many people feel they're not doing something right, and people hear me speak and say, Magenta, you know, you're amazing, you've got it, I wish I could be like you. And I will say, I'm just like you, I'm no different.
And that is so true. We all have our own little foibles, whatever they are. And it's, you know, I think a big one in the spiritual world or the new age world is, you know, you can heal yourself. Yes, we can. Why don't I? Or whatever it is.
It doesn't happen overnight.
No. But it's a matter of really, for me, it's accepting it. Like, don't beat yourself up.
No, exactly. And or others, because there's so much judgment. It's like, oh, I thought you were a light worker. You had a cold last week. What have you done wrong? Seriously, I've known people who, if you get ill, you're not enlightened. It's absolute nonsense. Sorry. It's just so not ascension. Of course, we're physical beings. We're physical beings. Healing isn't something that happens overnight, but we are all, any starseed is in a state of healing. But that doesn't mean they're in perfect health. I'm telling you now, there are many starseeds that are dealing with chronic health issues. I'm one of them myself. There you go. Don't be ashamed don't be ashamed to say that. And if people judge you, oh gosh, I thought you were a spiritual teacher, you've just admitted you've got a chronic health problem, I'm unsubscribing from you then and throwing all your books in. That is just not the way it is.
It's one word. We're human.
Exactly.
We've come down to experience what it's like to be in the body.
Exactly. It's about integration and expansion.
Yeah.
And that takes time on the physical level. Only from the higher level viewpoint, that omnipresent place, that place of the coming back to the I, the true I identity, from there we are fully healed. There is no disease in that place. But from the physical point of view, it takes a while for us to get there. We're in linear time. We can't jump into full omnipresence and think, wow, all my illnesses have just disappeared in 5 minutes. It doesn't work that way. It can.
But when you're in pain, you don't.
No,
you don't seem like that.
No, you don't. When you're in pain, you are, you feel trapped in your own body, and you do feel like a failure, and you do feel like, what am I doing wrong? I thought I was supposed to be spiritual. But and it's very hard to accept that. It's easier to accept an illness that doesn't give you pain, because accepting it is part of, I don't mean, oh, I'm going to live with this forever. I mean, not resisting it, as in, I hate the fact that I have this illness, I absolutely hate it, it's really getting me down. You have to embrace it and speak to it and allow it to merge with you. But that's very difficult when you're in pain, because you don't want that pain. But if you stay in resistance to it, it won't go away. So you have to find a way, whatever it takes, to embrace that and then step out on the healing journey. And it's something that takes time. It isn't done overnight. And I know exactly what you mean. I've been through that for the last year. Having issues that has caused me pain. Luckily, I've got through it so far. But I don't feel that I'm in a position where it will never happen again. We are in a human body, and there are things that human body needs. And the nine say to me, it's different to nurturing the physical body. It's completely different to nurturing the light body. They both have different requirements, and yet similar requirements, and one has to balance those requirements and work out, are there any conflicts between what the physical body needs and what the light body needs? Because what you're nurturing is the body that you're in now and the omnipresent future higher aspect of you. So one works on physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and spiritually in whatever way that they can.
But I always say the known and the unknown, because there's so much we don't know, but
Exactly.
it's there. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
Always putting that whenever I do healing with myself or anybody else for that matter. Yes, it's good. Well, I don't know about you, but where's that time gone?
Now, I believe you have a free gift.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Meditation.
Meditation. So these meditations were channeled from the 9 in response to having so many clients over the years that had different issues, and one of the most powerful ways to work with those issues is through visualization and meditation. I know there are many meditations out there and they're absolutely beautiful, but the 9 wanted to bring through meditations for specific things that are exactly as I have said, working on the physical body and the light body, the multidimensional body at the same time. You don't need to go, if you're a complete beginner, you don't need to go into any sort of protection. If you don't want to, you can. It's all built into the visualization. And these are guided visualizations that will take you into different journeys. And really, look at the title and just go with where you resonate, which one is calling you. And then however you wish to use them. Some people will use a meditation once and they will benefit from it for good. Others need to do that same meditation, 3 times a week for 10 years. It's completely different with each person. So they're guided meditations, but they are also DNA activations. So they will activate that aspect. They're memory triggers. So they trigger you into who you are. And that's why a lot of this new age terminology is used, like ascension and frequency and starseed. It's not just some weird language we've all developed. It's actually, these are frequency packages within the words. And so it's visualization from your own mind, and the words as well are activating within the DNA. So they're guided meditations for DNA activation.
On that point, Vicki was suffering with ill health, and the diagnosis, the doctors couldn't find what it was, and she was just going downhill. And we put on this guided meditation, visualization thing, nearly every night for a few weeks, and
made a difference.
Oh, big difference.
Absolutely.
And that was working with the DNA, you were telling me, it's in the mitochondria. Yeah, very.
Absolutely. It's so powerful. And you can go to a group for meditation, you can do mindfulness, you can do yoga nidra, or a combination of all of them. Just go where that resonates with you. The 9 have taught me recently Stargate healing. So when you go into the meditation, that isn't in any of the meditations I've already got. This is in Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame book at the end, and it's expanded since then, so I'll bring that forward in the future. They've taught me how to actually access a Stargate and merge with it. And what you're really doing is you're basically telling your body, I want to heal this and I want to heal that, and you're changing chemicals within the body. Everything is responding. The liver and the thyroid and the pineal gland and the blood, everything's responding to your thoughts, because your thoughts create emotions and create chemicals, and the body responds. But I would say, if you really want to move into a healing space and be as successful as possible, then work on all the levels. So go do a diet program or exercise, whatever it may be, as well as the spiritual. Work on all the levels. And as I said, the main issue is to just know you're getting there. So if you do wake up in pain and you're having symptoms of a chronic health condition that's been there for years, and it's so difficult to come out of that, especially with something like fatigue. It's so difficult to come out of fatigue because you feel so drained. But it's always finding that joy and think, I am moving forward. I am doing well. Even if your friends are saying, "Oh, what's the matter with you? Gosh, you're terrible. You're not coping." And that's because they don't know you, they don't know the way you work, they can't be in your body. It's for you to know each day, I'm moving forward. My father used to say, he gave me a hypnotic suggestion right from the age of 11, and I still use it now. And he used to say, every day in every way, I'm getting better, better, and better. It's so simple. And he probably got that from someone else. I don't know who. Otherwise, I would tell you who actually coined that phrase. I don't know if it was my father or if he got it from someone else. But I've used every day in every way. And you can move that even deeper and move into not such a linear timeline, but you can say, I am. I am in perfect health. Even if you are not, you can say these things to yourself, and you can breathe this in meditation. I am in perfect health. I am in perfect balance. Do all these things, but also look at the diet, look at the movement, look at all the other things as well. Look at the clothes you wear and the perfume you spray on your body and the stuff you put in your hair to wash your hair. It's the whole thing. Once you start this journey, it's huge, but it's so enjoyable once you start to find that because you get synchronicity, you get magic, you get all of this reinforcement from the universe. Yes, you are on the right path. Yes, that is the right diet for you. Yes, you are supposed to eat those organic strawberries. Yes, you were supposed to go and buy that natural healthy shampoo from the health shop. You get these signs, and it's a magical journey.
Yes, and you can eat that chocolate.
Raw chocolate. raw cacao only. That's with me.
Me too.
And you've got to remember to enjoy life.
Yes. And if you don't do it every day, that's okay. No one's expecting you to be in bliss 24/7. We're a human.
Yeah.
It's just the predominant amount of time that you spend in joy.
Yeah.
And we all have days where, we don't necessarily do that as much as we would want to. That's the human side of it. And allow others to learn from your experiences. That's the whole thing.
Yes.
So teach what you know, and deliver your experience to help others.
Yes, and let people see how you live.
Yes.
Be the example, yes. And you certainly are, Magenta. So I think on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been wonderful speaking to you.
Thank you.
There's so much this lady knows that, well, she has many, many YouTube things on the internet and 4 books. You've heard some of her wisdom, just a little tiny bit of it. And I know that out of our discussion today, our chat, that there's been something for you that will be one of those little nuggets. What your dad said.
I really hope so. Yes, that's lovely.
Yes.
And you two are both so lovely. You've both got such lovely energy. Both of you, beautiful hearts and beautiful.
We'll sit here and listen, hey? We've had some wonderful, wonderful people talking, as everybody knows. And as this is our last interview with a guest, tomorrow your bonus is, oh no, we do have another person after Magenta, don't we?
Well, it could be a surprise. We'll wait and see.
We're getting close to the end of our summit, as you know, our conversations with wonderful guests, and Magenta's been one of them, which we've been privileged to have. So once again, we thank you, and yes, we have someone else tomorrow for you, which we look forward to bringing to you. So with that, we're going to say good night. Magenta's going to say good afternoon, and we shall be talking soon. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.